Hi, everyone. My name is Marion Ranchet. So I'm the founder of the Local Light Consultancy and this newsletter called Streaming Made Easy. I'm having a lot of fun with that. And for the last few months, I've decided to take this live a little bit more because I want to have some good conversation with some great people. And so we just finished IBC. Some of us, if not most of us, are still struggling with, the level of stress and fatigue coming out of that event, but we're going to do our best to take you there as if you had spent a few days with us in Amsterdam 2 weeks ago. So I'm going to get started and have my panelists introduce themselves. Thierry.
Yes, I'm Thierry Fautier. I figure out I'm the only one out of United States of America. I'm managing director of Your Media Transformation, which is basically helping companies to go beyond what they do. And the tagline is transform or die.
Ooh, interesting. Provocative. I love it. Thierry, then Andreas, do you want to give it a go?
Yeah, so you call me Andreas, that means I have done something wrong because my mother calls me Andreas, everybody else calls me Andy. So, but that's fine.
I'm your mom. I'm your mom for the next hour. Behave.
Yeah. This is taking wrong turns, unexpected avenues. And by the way, you said we will bring everybody up to speed, even if they're not there. Does it mean we need to drink now the whole hour? I just got water. Maybe we need to get something else. No, so Andy Waltenspiel, I'm running a boutique consultancy, but actually that's increasingly incorrect because what I do is help you to look great. That's not about makeup tips yet. So if anybody wants to extend the value chain I'm covering, please be my guest. No, make you look great and how I talk about you, how I put you in front of the camera. And I'm happy that today it's your job, Marion, no pressure, to make us look great in how you lead that conversation.
Awesome.
So thanks for the invite. Happy to be here.
Welcome. And Keran, last but not least.
Thanks, Marion, and thanks for the invitation to join this panel. So I'm Karen Boyd. I am a consultant with, or consulting manager rather, with Caretta Research. We consider ourselves to be media tech experts. It is what we do. And I work with international content distributors and broadcasters to help them procure the right tech for their organization. So
awesome. And previously you were at IBC, so we'll get...
Yes, actually, I should say that I am actually still with IBC. I run the accelerator, well, I co-lead some of the accelerator projects alongside Mark Smith and Mookie Coolan. So deeply embedded in IBC, although all of the views represented here are my own.
Okay, good.
For the disclaimer.
Oh, fantastic. So I spoke to someone and I said IBC, someone saying, what the hell is this? So International Broadcasting Convention, it's happening every year in beautiful Amsterdam, where I live now. And this year we had over 45,000 attendees, which is more or less 2K versus last year. There's over 1,000 exhibitors. And the reason why I want to talk about this event a bit more is, one, I think the content ecosystem doesn't look at this event, they don't look at this event close enough. I think they should. But I also think that, the technology and the platform side of the business are also not necessarily making it easy for content people to, understand and grasp the opportunity that the event brings, right? So the idea today is to have a bit of a chat about this event, what it stands for in the industry, talk about, the key trends that we've noticed. There's going to be some specific topic. We'll be talking about AI. We'll be talking about white labeling and, making cost savings. I think that's a super important topic. We're going to, try to get the pulse also of the industry. And actually, we're going to start with that, guys. We've spent 3, 4, 5 days here. And, what's your feeling? What's your vibe, kind of top line of the events? It can be from the vendor side. It can be from the buyer side. Or even just us, as free agents, let's put it that way. Andreas?
Go ahead.
Lady first.
Well, I mean, you know what? So this, I think, will be my 7th IBC this year. And so I'm kind of, I suppose, newer than a lot of the folks at the event. But for me, this was my favorite one that I've been to thus far. It really feels like this year it was properly back after COVID, where the last few years have felt a little bit uncertain, and we're trying to figure out what's happening in the ecosystem. It seems like now there is a plan and there's some optimism about what's happening, and we kind of all know that hard times are upon us and they're going to continue, and we've seen that in the news over the last few days, but there seems to be at least some direction. Whereas last year we were really in the middle of the writers' strikes, and that was still affecting things, so there was a lot of uncertainty about the market, and I feel like we're moving on, and personally I had a lot of fun. And that was it's probably the funnest IBC I've been to. Yeah, so I would say it was generally a pretty good show.
How about you guys? What's your take?
So you're at IBC 7, I counted, was 21, means I have a bit
My
of
God.
more gray hair, and Thierry
Bingo.
even more. Yeah, it was one of the bullshit bingo, not bullshit bingo, but just bingo. Yeah, like how often
Yeah.
have you been here? And oh, I thought you were joining AWS. So 21.
I'm sure all of us are joining AWS at some point in our past and future.
If you want or not, it's like the sucks in everything. But that is one of the problems, right? We see we're in a very mature industry, and there is consolidation overdue. It's not happening at the pace normally you would see on a, let's look at an industry level from the outside. This is how industries evolve. When you are in a mature level, then the number of players will go down, and there will be a few that will dominate. And AWS is, I think, well positioned. Not saying they are. Google is another one. But there are some categories of vendors where there's simply too many. And something will have to happen. And well, things happen. We saw announcement during IBC even. So also, and I agree with you, Karen, the mood is good. It's much better than last year. Last year it was like, okay, we're on our feet still, but we don't know how long. More optimism in the market. So the mood was good. Yeah.
Yeah, you were saying that, but when I was on the floor and when I spoke to a couple of vendors, it felt like they were saying that business was harder. So I guess at least they're not blindfolded, right? They know something's up, right? They know a change is needed. But having said that, a lot were like, okay, if we get one deal out of this event, then we'll be happy. That feels like not so optimistic to me. So Thierry, I don't know, what's your take? What did you see?
Well, always important to be at both IBC and NAB. I think for all of us will agree, those are the two major events and you can't miss them. Second, I would say this was, of course, consolidation. I'm not going to hammer that. My previous company tries to sell, could not sell, but maybe others will try to buy later on. So it's obvious that there are way too many vendors for a shrinking market. But I also believe there will be opportunities for those vendors. And I have my my baton of the pilgrim baton of managed service and white label service. If you are in a stagnating industry, if you don't grow your subscriber, why don't you give the key of the house to a company who's going to manage your own service, and you are going to stop this stupid RFI, RFP, POC trial, which costs a lot of money. And I think at some time, some CFO will go to the CTO without talking to some CFO will go to the CEO without going to the CTO, telling them, hey, I have a great idea. Maybe we can change the way we work. And you might get a similar experience to the end user. And I know Andy is going to catch me and say, yes, that's great. But if you want to be super aggregator, you need this contract with that content provider. You need to put money. Yes, there will still be creativity and dollars or euros to put on the table. But I believe this industry needs to transform. And all the people who are trying to sell software standalone and convince the customer to buy, I think this is going to come to an end. Yes, there will be partnership of pre-integrated solution, but it's complex to integrate. And I think we might see some evolution of this market coming forward.
Yeah, Thierry, a good point saying the CFO will talk to CEO, not even to Dilbert. Let's call him Dilbert, the CTO, right? And you made a point, I think it was yesterday or the day before, Marion, where you said a slide with all tech acronyms on the slide, and you see too many of that. And I fully agree. If you try to sell tech to techies, and the decision is made on a business level, you have a problem. And I see still way too many booths that are full of architecture slides and tech term, and not why would anybody need that? Or I can do everything, but it's very unspecific. So selling value to business people is still something that some of the industry have to learn. And if they don't learn fast, they will go under, like transform or die, as Thierry rightfully calls.
Yeah, but it's been a problem for many years, right? And I think that where it's a pressing matter now is that these last few years, like you could expect that, a lot of new customers would come to you and say, oh, I want to have my own, OTT, I want to have my own streaming platforms, because we're seeing the other side of the business with, smaller services, either closing down or, consolidation. Again, we'll talk about that a bit later on, but, in the chase for profitability, cost saving, all of those things. I mean, if you have a very neat value proposition, and yet there's not a lot of net new customers, where are those customers coming from, right? It's kind of the question mark. So are you stealing business from others? Is that what happens? And we all know how difficult it is to migrate from one tech stack to another. So it's like, even for those who manage to have the right value proposition, where is the new pocket of opportunities? Kind of the question I have. But Kieran, sorry, I don't want to go for it.
I think the sentiment is not necessarily white labeling or managed service versus build in-house, because realistically it's a spectrum. I think the ask of the market is for flexibility. And this is the word that was screamed from the rooftops for the whole of IBC. And it probably is our biggest buzzword, that if we take AI off the table, flexibility is what people want.
Actually, what they want is flexibility translated into not being locked in.
Well, so SaaS offers a bit of a different perspective, right? Because if I don't like you, I can just move on. And at some point, because of the niceties in the market, that vendor is expected to help you move on to one of your competitors. So there's more pressure on vendors to deliver. And, speaking frankly, I think about, particularly if we're looking at those who don't have a tech team per se, like they might have some infrastructure that they use. They might not have like a media tech specific team. They really don't know what they're asking for. Like they're going to go, here's my list of 700 requirements, bring me something that does exactly what I want. And that fits into my stack, and that I can integrate with these 17 different platforms, and I needed to do this, and I need remote access. I don't want a cloud bill. Don't bring me AWS. And so I think vendors get a little paralyzed with kind of what exactly are we supposed to do with this? And so I think the flexibility element that needs to come from vendors is both the flexibility to be able to work with different products, to work with different profiles of clients, but also to potentially open up new markets to themselves. And we've seen this really well in things like connected cars. Like we're seeing all of the front end vendors now being able to launch their platforms in BMWs and Mercedes. And that's obviously a new market for them. And I think if you take that flexible mindset to product development, what you end up getting is a product that doesn't just go into a tier 2 telco's backend. You get a product that can go into different kinds of clients, different segments, into different ecosystems, and potentially, hopefully, different verticals. And I think that's where this question of where do the net new clients come from? They're not coming from media and entertainment, sadly. It's going to come from other connected services where we're enabling content consumption.
Super interesting.
So that's a mouthful. There's my monologue done. I'll see you guys later.
No.
Flexibility for me, that's where.
I think that on top of flexibility, you had efficiency, right? And also you want it to not cost too much? Like, is it even possible to actually run, a business where, you tick all of those boxes? It's flexible, it's efficient, it's not, too expensive, and yet on the other side, you're making enough money. I think that's a bit of the question mark, right? And I think what's interesting with vendors, and you see them being challenged by that, is they have a lot more of their clients who expect more than the technology from them. Meaning that, so don't just, build me this thing, help me run it. Or in some cases, even further, help me do the strategy. Because at the end of the day, if they have this beautiful car, but no one's in it, no one wins, right? The question is, are vendors actually capable of, advising their clients on things that are beyond tech? Thierry, maybe this one is for you, right?
Yeah. Well, I can give you a typical example. Let's talk about my pet subject, which is the codec. You still have companies who are showing to operators a brand new codec, such as AV1, which requires a separate encoding farm, a separate client than the one deployed today, a huge integration into the HDRs and the low latency. And this is great from a vendor point of view. From the operator point of view, it's a, excuse my French, freaking nightmare. So the smart one are going to tell you, don't change anything. I'm going to give you a magic bullet, which is the content-aware encoding. You can save as many bits as a new codec without changing anything. And then the client say, oh, this is great. I like this idea because I don't need to break anything. I can decrease my traffic. I can reduce my satellite bandwidth. I can go to a 4G instead of 5G device. So for me, this is a typical example where the vendors need to stop thinking for themselves, engineering delight, but look at what is the pain point from a financial and operational point of view from the customer side.
Yeah,
I see Karen and Andy saying yes, so I'm going to let you continue the conversation.
I mean, we see a lot of, my work is literally going into buyer organizations and helping them buy tech, and I'm generally helping them replace something. And the thing we're replacing is not well regarded, because they'll go, they promised us this thing and then they weren't able to build it, or they promised us this thing and then we bought it and then it sat empty because they didn't onboard us properly, or we bought this thing and it actually couldn't do the thing we needed it to do, but because we didn't evaluate it properly in the beginning, it doesn't work for us. Or even better, we bought this thing, the vendor is a nightmare to work with. So as much as I completely disagree with your point, Andy, that like it's the technology and the diagrams and the architecture shouldn't be there, I also completely agree with you that people buy from people. And so for me, when we're going, how do I evaluate a piece of technology? I would say the two things, because you can't have it all. You can't have the flexibility and the most advanced AI on the market and low storage costs and good integrations across the board. Like, you're going to get a bill that you do not want to see, like in an economy that is not supporting that. But if you kind of, you pick the things that are important to you, those two things inevitably should be vendor fit, your work, the vendor fitting into your organization. Sorry, fit is a weird word now with TikTok. But
I don't know that reference. I'm too old.
Oh, fit means like what I'm wearing. So this
okay, yeah, fit.
yeah, this is my outfit. I have an influencer sister, this is why, but this is the whole story. Okay. Anyway, but the most important things really that from my perspective that you should be looking at is the cultural fit with the vendor, making sure that you can work with them long-term and you like the way that they work, because different organizations have different ways of working, right? Some people have support centers which are not in the same country as you. How important is that? And then the second thing is, can the product actually do what you need it to do? And that's really where the whole procurement process falls apart, because an RFP is just a really long Word document that nobody wants to write and nobody wants to read, and you're not really finding anything out about it. So, there's a huge balance here to be struck between like what you need and what the vendor market can deliver, and then being able to make those two things work.
The problem is procurement. I've been in a procurement role a long time ago. I said, so if I get paid, if my bonus is due to I bring down price from this year to next year by 10%, that's all I will do. So get what you pay for. But then let me see if this works. So this is my favorite picture. Not sure we can do it full screen. There's always someone gonna be doing it cheaper. But if you want that nice Pegasus, but you get what this guy is getting tattooed on his back, yeah, it can always be cheaper.
Yeah.
So get what you pay for, and yeah, I think total cost of ownership. And but it's difficult to find the vendor fit if the key criteria is price.
And
Yeah.
so, Karen, about how buyer go at it, right? Is there a trend in the way that they're buying? Are they looking at buying this, thing that is doing everything, and then they don't really care about what's happening in the background? Or are they more in a setup where they do piecemeal, meaning that, they will do that work of assembling the best of tech and make that work? I assume this varies depending on the size of the company. To your point, do they have a team, yes or no? Yeah, what are you seeing there?
I think it really depends. I think, and Thierry can speak to this far more than I can. The telco market is doing its own thing, which is very big on outsourcing as much as possible, where they'll have like a TV product manager that might manage that internally, but generally they're not like a tech person. The trend that we're really seeing at the moment is in say like more content studio type setups or distribution houses. We're seeing a very big trend there about trying to go, okay, we want this MAM and we want this broadcast management system and we want this rights system coming in. And we bring it all together. It's a fantastic setup, especially if you can get it to work with your storage and infrastructure. But then the issue you're faced and where the market is still developing is who's going to come and make them all speak to each other, because that's what we want, right? And again, so there's an opportunity in the market there, particularly if we're thinking around people who are able to offer managed services to also come in and do those integrations, because this has the opportunity to transform these organizations. Like, you're able to leverage your catalog more, you're able to launch fast channels with very low effort, but with a lot of data to support that it may be successful. You're able to start looking at new ad tech and dynamic ad insertion. So there's a lot of opportunities in doing this. It's just whether or not you're at the stage where you're willing to dive in, because it's a huge investment. It's a huge transformation for an organization. So yeah, there's a lot of change out there, but primarily I think it's in those people with rich content libraries, because those are the people who are going to win right now, because they didn't have to license from people. They've got it in-house.
I see.
So Marion, I have a comment to make, since both you and I were at the Devoncroft conference prior to IBC. And if you recall, the orchestration was a big theme. Who is going to orchestrate all those complicated workflows? And of course, if you go to AWS, they tell you, we have it all figured out for you. All the building blocks exist already. Pick this vendor, is going to work. That's one thing. If you look more on the distribution side, company, like the transcoding origin server, they bring you a completely pre-integrated solution within their SaaS offering, which means what you used to piecemeal before, you get it from one single vendor. And I think simplicity, Karen, is for me the name of the game, because the team do not have all the muscles and the time and the money to build custom solution, and they probably have to build super Legos based on Legos that are already pre-integrated. So for me, it's a theme that was confirmed at IBC, that operators don't have the patience to rebuild the whole system.
Or the knowledge, really. And I mean, but the other piece of this, which is the dark horse and the thing that can potentially sandbag these projects, is that you might get a pre-integrated solution, and that's wonderful. And it may come to you and you'll choose a vendor based on the fact that they have certain pre-integrations that work with what you've already got. The issue comes in the implementation when you go, the data that I got out of this system is in no way fit for purpose to go into the new one, because we never bothered with figuring this system out. We just started dumping files into one place, and now we've got a mess, and you have to do that data transformation piece. And then, you know, you've also then got, oh, AI, can this help us? And then so, although the solution is definitely, it might be in the market and the vendors can help you out, there's this other bit about how do we actually get the system working, which is, I think, another part of the market that we have to figure out. Because I mean, when you go, oh, okay, cool, we're gonna get a new MAM, and then you see the files that came that are ready to go in and they are disorganized, and like, it's things like renaming files and a consistent naming convention to be able to find things. And this is man hours, and a lot of them, because I mean, you're talking about, you know, thousands and thousands of catalog items with, you know, subcatalogs and all sorts of things. So it's a very complex problem.
Karen, you mentioned AI. And I think that's the perfect segue, because, of course, that was the buzzword. We had a few, I was super disappointed. Benedict Evans was supposed to keynote. He didn't come. So I think it would have been the highlight. I really love this guy. I think he's fascinating. It was the buzzword, although all 14 were Microsoft at its booth, and we were supposed to have tons of, it felt empty and awkward. I also felt, again, you know, I'm not a techie, but you had that word being thrown in on everyone else's booth, and then you're thinking, is that truly, you know, AI, or is it just there because, you know, that's what people want, right? And that's appealing to sellers. So, like, anything that, you know, caught your attention on the topic of AI, that can be a demo, that can be the lack of innovation, that can be market feedback. I have a few things from content people on that topic, but yeah, go for it.
So AI everywhere. I had a panel, and Ajay, the CEO of Norwegian Media, did a very cool speech. No slides. I said he doesn't have slides, but he has a tie. Hi,
And a magnificent haircut. Like, I'm super jealous.
Absolutely, and he's a great speaker. So if you have the chance, go see him. And he doesn't pay me for saying that. I truly liked it. And he said, you know, we don't talk about the internet. It's there. We use it. We don't talk about electricity. It powers our devices. We don't talk about it. Same for software. AI is the same. It will be there. It will be everywhere. You call it algorithm, call it machine learning, call it AI. I mean, the buzzword is AI, but it's not a hype like 3D or the metaverse that will likely go away. It's here to stay. And everybody will use it, and we will talk less about it. We'll talk about the use cases. So we're back to, let's talk about what is in it for us, what problems is it solving, and how much does it cost? Because not everything that's doable does make sense from a financial standpoint.
So I would like to make one comment based on the real story. I cannot name the customer, but I met him at NAB, and he was telling me, I told him, what are you doing here? He said, I'm going to search for subtitling company that can translate my speech, is French, to text. And I said, but what? This is available from Google. What are you talking about? And he told me, no. First, it doesn't work for French. Second, it's studio capture content. I have reporters with a lot of noise that give me a lot of challenges. And third, they don't have the requirement of the regulator that requires you to not miss a single word in the speech. And then you see the demo at Hall 14, great, wonderful, and you wonder, how can this fit into a professional, carrier-grade, regulated environment? And then you realize this might take many years to come to fruition. So what I said last year is still valid this year. Watch what you are looking for, because yes, it might work on the trade show, but if you want to deploy in a commercial environment, it might not be good enough, and therefore you might need to work more, probably with the same vendor, but giving more clear requirements, more test files, which are your files, not his files, and of course convince the regulator that maybe it is not possible to do it automated way, maybe only for the web channel, not for the terrestrial channel. So I think people start to realize now that what they see might not fit their needs. That's my comment.
How can you check, right? So talking about localization, like a lot of, so I don't see a lot of true content people at IBC, right? From the distribution or the acquisition side. It does happen now, and I would say it's thanks to FAST, because FAST is closer to anything they've done before. It's closer to their traditional business of acquiring and licensing content. So they actually are more interested, and they are the ones having those conversations with the FAST vendors. And so very logically, they've done that first step these last few years. And now it's a matter of, how do I grow, outside of English speaking markets, right? And so to your point, folks are searching for AIs to do subtitling, but more importantly, dubbing, right? Because subtitling, I believe, is cheaper, except it's considered not good enough in certain markets. If you look at the French market, the German market, we want dubs, or the market wants dub, or the market thinks they want dubs. It's too expensive for, this new economy of streaming, let alone fast. And so people are looking to AI to fix that. But then they end up having, a French file and a German file. And how can they even check that it is, good enough, right? I mean, they're at a point where even if they give it a go with a couple of, titles, their own titles, I receive files from companies saying, okay, what do you think? As a French, is it good enough? Is that the way they should do business? Is there a way, Keren, to manage that, right? Because otherwise, I think the adoption from these companies, it's going to take time, right?
Yeah, AI is is an interesting subject for many reasons, but I think the two sides of it for me are if your error rate is lower than what your human error rate is, why wouldn't you use it?
But how do you measure? That's you send it to Marion.
Well, you have to, because look, so
Mhm.
I think buyers should be experimenting as much as they can with AI,
And they
but
do.
within the context of knowing that in 5 years' time, what we're talking about now is going to seem so silly and basic. So it kind of irritates me when I see vendors who have like AI module, which is like an additional add-on to their product, because I'm just like, your existing product uses AI. You're just marketing this as like as an upsell, really. And maybe there's some extra work that needs to go into that. I'm sure that there is, but at the same time, this should be your value proposition. You should be giving it to your customers to use it, to play with it, to try and break it, to train it. Like, I don't understand kind of the gatekeeping on this technology. You should be developing it with your customers, because vendors don't have huge content catalogs that they can test like their localization algorithm on, but your client does. So there's a balance, right? Like, maybe don't invest too much, but play with it. Like, see what you can get your hands on, and absolutely speak to your partners, because they have something in the works, whether they're telling you about it or not.
Yeah.
And I don't think that there should be a fear around it. Like, if we use it responsibly, most companies will go get a policy in place before they start playing. Have fun. It's tech. It's cool. Like, it's cool.
It is.
You wanted to chime in?
Yes, so for me, there is a very simple use case of AI. I am a content provider, and I have only made English audio plus English subtitle, and maybe for 3 or 4 major countries, I have the subtitling. I want to go to India, and as you know, in India, not everybody speaks English. So you have to not dub it, but let's put it subtitling in the 4 or 5 different languages. You can reach 1.5 billion people. Even if it's not perfect, the guy will still enjoy to see in his own language the subtitling that would never come, because it's a long tail content from the content provider. So I think AI is going to unlock some market, and also some mindset of content provider who say, oh, I cannot distribute this content in this country. Wrong. You can. And if the consumer say it's not good, then you'll get negative review at worst, but still
Yeah.
people will be able to use it.
I think the thing is that I think the standard is broadcast quality, right? This is what they're trying to achieve, and clearly it's not attainable at the stage AI is, right? So content providers told me AI dubbing, not there yet, not at scale, and not in all languages, and not in all types of setup, meaning some were saying, the documentaries, it works, but whenever, we're talking scripted and you have me, speaking, it doesn't work. I've actually heard someone said that, and I need to get my hands on the data source on that. But about your point about they're going to be happy, users are going to be happy because it's in their language, etc. When it comes to AI dubbing and not subtitling, apparently the threshold for users to, watch and listen to an AI doing dubbing is like 10 minutes before they get tired of it. So that's fascinating. I do think that it's kind of a hit or miss. Maybe subtitling, it can make do. There's a typo, you move on, etc. But the fact that you are listening to, a computer generated, voice, if it's not perfect, you have that risk of losing the viewer, and it's a bit hit or miss. And we're at a time where people want viewers to spend as much time as possible with their content. So that's where I think Karen is right. Folks are experimenting, but it's very difficult to put it out there because you're really giving the end product to the viewer. And yeah, if it's not good enough, that it's not good enough, and you've kind of lost your chance. And at a moment where there's so much content, so folks were saying Mr. Beast sounds great in Spanish. So is there this thing where, if it's on YouTube or if it's on broadcast TV or in streaming, then, maybe it's not as relevant and it's not as problematic if it's not just perfect. But when you pay the license fee or when you pay $20 to Netflix a month, you want the top quality, right? This is what you've been used to.
Spectrum, isn't it? Because you'll have, we're all consultants. So when somebody comes to you with something that you can do quickly, you price it lower. When it takes more time, it costs more. And I think, if you're like an All3 Media or BBC Studios and you have a lot of documentary content, and that can reliably be dubbed, then, your dubbing bill goes down regardless of whether or not you can do it with your whole library. Yeah. So it just, I think as we catch up, or as AI catches up to what we needed to do, then we'll start using it more. Just an example of something which, honestly, this is not like a, oh my God, look what AI can do. This is such a small thing, but there is, we saw a company, and I wish I could remember, they're called iMovo, I think. I'll get the name. But what they do, it's a layer that sits on top of your storage, and it goes through all of your files, and it goes and it creates metadata out of that. And it can do so reliably. It can give you really good quality metadata. And I mean, even just having that layer on top then goes, oh shit, I forgot we have that series that has Or it helps your salespeople be able to go, oh, I need something about penguins. Let me type into the map. Okay, penguins. Here we go. Here's our
yeah, but it's in the background, right? So this is where I think AI should focus right now.
It's not like blowing anyone's minds, but it is so useful to the people who need it that it's like one of those, as you both said, Andy.
100%. Like on scheduling, for example, whether you're talking fast or else, I think, this is what the market wants, right? Making sure that at least that first level of programming can be done, thanks to AI or whatever, to then let people actually put, man hours into what makes a difference, which is the curation, not losing time searching for pieces of content here and there to build a schedule. So super on board with that use case. Andreas, you want to say something?
You say Andreas again, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
That's fine. That's my name. So I'm running a study these days with tier 1 operators, and AI, of course, is a big topic. A lot of experimentation still. Many started in let's do the cool use cases and quickly took the turn to let's see what can save us cost. And one of the question is, how do you measure success of whatever you do in AI? And a variety of answers. Okay, we measure NPS, we measure costs, we measure time to market. And some said, as long as the user experience is not badly impacted, it's good enough. Or if it works, it's good enough. But the cost of running AI 24/7, and that's to your point, do I need AI to do all my metadata 24/7? That can become very costly. And I might not have the return on investment of doing that. So yeah, it's the actual intelligence is also still quite in fashion, and not just blindly like in the beginning. Everybody, yeah, let's go cloud. Cloud is great, and then they realized, oh, the bills of ingress and egress will be huge. We'll have the same with AI. Oh, we were having it right now.
It's a shift in the market towards software though, right? Like, so when you are using more software, you have more data available to you. So, you know, and this is one of the reasons why ad-supported TV, I just heard the other day we're saying past now for paid ad-supported TV. So, you know, whatever we're calling that in the future, whatever it will become, you know, one of the very powerful things about it is I know how viewers are reacting to my content, but actually, you know, and so the opportunity is we have all of this data, and so you have to use it. Like AI isn't just let me bolt a module onto a system and then it's going to do this thing for me. AI is going to be our way of working. Like all of our jobs are going to change. Like, and this is why this being kind of hesitant about the implementation is a bit weird, because it's like, this is coming, get on board. Like, it's cool, it's going to help you. But you know, so you have to kind of, I think, evaluate all of those things with the available data that you have, and content performance, ROI, TCOs, time to market is kind of one thing. I think in the early stage of AI, it may be a less relevant question because we don't know how easy it's to implement these things. But yeah, it's not this is, you know, these are big business decisions that people need to make with data, and hopefully these companies have lots of clever business analysts who can tell them whether or not they should be going for it. Because
otherwise they can always call you, right? Us.
Exactly. Well, not me, the very clever people who do that within Coretta Research. I just buy the tech.
Guys, one question about skills, right? Because AI, along with everything else, so it was interesting. We had RTS, which is the Royal, you know, Television Society, so an organization in the UK. They did a fireside chat with Evan Shapiro, but the point was really to present a mini MBA that they had in the works. So I think, again, to train the next media and entertainment or the next broadcasts executive of the coming years. What have you seen, you know, around the show floor or in the discussion about that topic of, you know, upskilling folks, right? Whether that's AI or other topic. And I think, Kieran, that takes us to diversity, to talk about diversity.
Yeah. Look, the skills issues, it's not new, right? The market has been struggling with this for a really long time. And if you look around, I can't speak for the US, but certainly if you look around Europe, you're not going to see many programs which train broadcast engineers or media people, and specifically the business that we work in. Pretty sure none of us have a degree in what we're doing right now. So, you know, like I was trained as a lawyer. So yeah, there you go. So I think it's absolutely necessary that we need to have more training, but it's also like we need to support the development of those people within our organizations, because it's changing quite quickly, and it's really easy to just go, and I hear this so much, and I don't know why the poor broadcast engineers get it, but everyone's like, oh, broadcast engineers, they don't want to learn new systems. And I'm just like, well, you know, we can't just be turfing people out of our company. It's like, let's think about it. And the beautiful thing about these software-defined workflows is that many of them are low or no code. So when we're talking about like needing to reskill, you're not really teaching somebody you're not teaching them to like code all of a sudden. You're just teaching them to learn a new system. And that then brings the question in of, we need to be better at change management. Honestly, that's literally what it is, which is making sure, and that's the way that we Coretta propose you buy tech, which is put it back into the hands of your stakeholders. If they can use it, you know you've got a system which will work for you.
Yeah, but like I said, we need to transform, we need to change. A great example from Formula One. Yeah, so you think there's a race and who wins the race? It's not the driver. The strategy decisions are taken not at the racetrack, somewhere in the factory in Milton Keynes, and there's a data scientist, a woman, by the way, and she calls the shots on a Red Bull race. She tells Verstappen what to do, when to go into the pit stop. The other cool job that we should have learned, or we're in the process of doing, is prompt engineering. Yeah, so it's the age of the prompt. If you don't know how to do good prompts, AI will do giggle, garbage in, garbage out. You will not get what you want. So training people, but also training your system. And that was one of the challenges I hear. What's so difficult with AI? Where do I get good training data? So I need to train my team to use the system, but first I need to train the system itself. So
yeah, we need to be hiring more data scientists. That's what the
absolutely.
Thierry,
Thierry.
you don't need to raise your hands.
No, because I see there's a lot of back and forth discussion. So I just want to say I have something interesting to say. No, for me, if I take the example of the Olympics, it was quite striking to see the OBS people who come with a very well thought architecture, software-based, everything running on data center that they bring at the venue. And in the same panel, you had the poor guy from Be In Sport who say, I have my existing boxes that I need to reuse. I don't have ST2110 because I cannot change my infrastructure just for the spike of the Olympics. And here it shows you that, yes, if you have all the environment and the money and the time to train for the next even in 2 to 4 years, yes, you can do miracles. If you are tied by existing budget, existing skills, existing equipment that you cannot replace, then it's not going to happen. And I think for me, this was a very eye-opening to see on the same job, you can do it in a very different way, depending on where you come from and where you want to go to.
So guys, there's a Q&A here. So feel free to send some questions. I haven't seen any. So in the meantime, I'll ask something to you guys. Let me know if you want to take this one, but on sustainability, right? So where are we on that front? Was it, a talk of the show floor, or was it just a nice to have? Where do we stand on that?
So maybe I can start with my 1 hour brainwashing at the greening of streaming members meeting, although I was flagged as a sleeping part of the time. But for me, it was the confirmation of the back and forth discussion we had with Dom Robinson and his team, where I was thinking as an engineer that the less bits I put on the network, the less energy the network is going to consume. And this is damn wrong, because the network is based on capacity and it runs all the time. Nobody stops to transmit bits because there's no bit to transmit. So at the end of the day, it's very tough to optimize the network. You can do a lot of things on the device, obviously, but on the network is very tough. And my conclusion is, yes, we can do miracles if we could switch on and off the network. For example, some people in the mobile network right now are switching off some base stations which are unused from midnight to 5 a.m. That's possible. In that case, you are going to drastically reduce on a certain part of the day. But I think the challenge for our industry is to have software-defined networks where you will be eventually able to say, okay, less capacity, I'm going to pull down the less traffic, therefore I can pull down the capacity on demand. And this doesn't exist yet. So I think we still have a long way to go. For me, the striking news is that we now have data to argue before we had opinions. And therefore, we are probably on the right track. And I will let my colleagues to continue the conversation.
Yeah, we only have one planet, and we still think, okay, if it's more costly, then no, let's not do it. Yeah, that's unfortunately many I hear is exactly that. So yes, a few exceptions. Great said we can differentiate by circular economy. Super cool. Now, often the consumers who need to buy that said, I'm not gonna pay €5 more because this set-top box is more green. And if the offer over there, I get the same content, just, yeah, this TV has less power consumption. Unless I pay for it, I don't care. So there's a lot of stuff happening on a corporate level and ESG rules. And yes, of course, and I optimize my data center, but it's not used when they talk to the customer.
Yeah. So
Very seldomly.
There's no, it needs to have a business case in order to become something. And in your opinion, it's not there yet.
It's not there yet, with exceptions, but it's not there yet. It's not a problem of the vendors. They have great ideas, really ambitious. It's just the operator side, the buyer side is not buying because their customers couldn't care less. In still a tough environment economically, cost of living crisis, less money in the purse. So yeah, I want my soccer, or I want my MTV, as Dire Straits sang back then. There's not enough money there to pay for it, and that's not good.
So actually, there's a great question in the chat. We spoke about AI, how one should invest. We're talking about sustainability, and someone's saying, is it possible to drive, sustainability and embrace AI, given the resources and energy it takes to train LLMs?
Good. It's a good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, look, I think the thing I think that is encouraging in the market at the moment is, as Andreas said, the vendors have a lot of good ideas. And I think that the place that we need to get to is that it's something that consumers want. It's something which is not going to come with an insane cost. So an example that someone gave me a couple of years ago, well, actually it was last year, they were saying that they didn't get some rating on the Albert production scale because they had, I can't remember if it's LEDs or the bad light bulbs, but they had the bad light bulbs in their facility, and it would have cost them something like £150,000 to replace all of the light bulbs in their facilities. But if they had done that, the saving would have been something like double over the lifetime, let's say, of the light bulb, because of how much power they would save. But his point was, so do I take perfectly functioning light bulbs and just throw away all of these light bulbs just because I'll get a better Albert certification and therefore I will be greener? Or do I do the logical thing, which is wait till the end of their life and then replace them once they're done? So, and I think that there's a lot of conundrums like this around sustainability. And the answer, frankly, is like, we don't really know. Like we know for a fact that and this is from the EcoFlow project that we just did with IBC accelerators. We know for a fact that the end user device is the biggest power consuming part of the supply chain. But like something overwhelming, like it's an overwhelming amount that it consumes power. So when we're going like, okay, cool, but we'll like reduce the capacity of the data center and I mean, you're really talking about like very small adjustments on that supply chain relative to something like the device. So it's kind of going like, what can we do? Where are the easy wins and where do we need to do better? And unfortunately, that device side of it is a very big thing. But does that mean people are going to stop watching very high definition content, or that 8K is going to go away and people aren't going to then go, oh, I want 16K content? Like, of course they are. They want bigger TVs, like, they want all these things. So it's a very, very complicated question. And whether or not AI will be part of the solution or the problem, I don't know. I think the solution, because you'll be able to manage your power consumption better if you're doing it in an intelligent way, right? You can turn things off. And in the streaming workflow, turning things off is probably the best way of saving power. So, it's
one use case I saw. Company, big telco, said that we're using AI to predict your usage pattern, so you don't switch off your box. So we switch it off because normally after there's no interaction on the box after 11 p.m. So we switch it off.
Yeah.
And you know what? Yeah.
save a lot of power.
And I
I
mean,
think-
another great thing I saw was an audio only mode. Aceto had a platform, and this was part of the demo for EcoFlow, where you can click audio only mode and then your display goes off. And if
Yeah.
the device is the biggest power consuming factor in your supply chain, just turning that device screen off, again, huge savings. So it's kind of thinking like, what can we do with customers that will make them have better habits around consumption and power consumption and content consumption. But you know, what is going to make sense for them, not just because we're going green, 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 because as Andrea said, like we want people to care more than they do.
Yep.
100%. So guys, we're coming at the end of our session. Went too fast. So is there one thing that you saw, a demo, an innovation? If there's none, then that says a lot about the state of the industry, but so think hard. And also, if you have time, you know, look ahead to next year. But very briefly, we got 2 minutes left. So I'll let, you know, any one of you. Andy, do you want to start?
Yeah, there we go. Yes, 70% CDN capacity saving during Olympics, big French operator. How? Put a CDN into the boxes, distributed peer-to-peer like, but without the bad commutation. So it was a big operator who owns content, loved it. So you love peaks, you love the audience, because the more people share, the better. Saving cost, big thing. The other side, monetization. Nobody likes ad load. So what if you can do $1 per household per month with just 2 ads per day? StarHub in Singapore is doing that.
Interesting.
Very cool stuff. You see an ad when you click the button on your remote. You exit Netflix. Then I call Amazon. Okay, I got 1.5 million exit on Netflix on the day. Just you go to for a tenth of a second to the UI. Then I get a Netflix, the Amazon ad. Different CPM and guaranteed view. Clever things like that, I think, will change quite a lot.
Nice. Thierry?
Well, I will do some advertisement. A company I've been working with for some time. Visualon was showing on the mobile device content-aware encoding implemented in the telephone, meaning that when you shoot your video, you store half of the content on your phone. So think of people going to the cloud because it's not sitting on their phone, or people who buy a phone like myself that cannot be hardware upgraded because there's no SIM card. So there's no slot for SSD, external SSD. So I think what I like is the fact that the professional technology are now coming to consumer. And the other one I would say is the Amlogic demonstration of ZTE set-top box doing automatic translation of subtitle in the language you pick.
Oh, nice. I want to get my hands on that demo. Let's chat. Keran, what do you have?
I
for
want
us?
both of those.
Yeah. Let's do a second session. Let's check it out.
Yeah.
Book for show and tell. So I'm gonna go slightly boring on this. I think some of the coolest stuff that I saw at IBC was around 5G, and I'm very excited about what happened during the summer sports season over the Olympics and Wimbledon, and just the way that everybody is now using 5G. I think the private networks are really coming along, and we're going to see a lot of progress there. So I'm very excited to have less cables, and it's more sustainable. So.
Awesome.
Marion, and you?
Me.
What did you see?
What's yours?
Yeah. Well, I'll have to be honest with you. I had no time to check out anything on any of the booth. What I will say is I'm fascinated by how the event has been changing from purely tech to tech, platform, and content. I still think that it's not catering enough to content people. And at the end of the day, those are the people you sell to. So I think we need to find a way to do a better job at that. That would be my my main takeaway and my wish for next year. So I'll see you guys next year because I'll be there. It's just a bike ride for me. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for everyone who attended. And yeah, have a lovely day. Cheers, guys.
Thank you, Marion, for having us.
Marion.
Bye, everyone.